Welcome, everybody, to the Sickos Committee Patreon. We have a special podcast series going again. We did one last year for the 80-game losing streak for Prairie View A&M, which was a 7-part podcast series, which was full of indictments, full of Texas Marshal investigations, missing scholarships, and everything like that. We don't anticipate something 7-parter here, but we're aiming for a 3-parter. We're calling this our drought series. And our friend Danger, the Penn State fan, who is really good at acronyms, came up with the acronym of Destitution Reigns Over Underperforming, Gloomy, Heartbroken Teams. This is going to be for Northwestern's 34-game losing streak, which was the longest ever in FBS football. And of course, we have a special guest, someone that went to Northwestern, Rodger Sherman here. We had to get him on, the world's biggest Northwestern fan that we actually like.
Thanks for the caveat there, because I was like, I don't think I'm the world's biggest. I mean, like I
I
haven't
don't know.
been to any games in a while. There
I
are
don't want
people that
to,
donate money to the
no,
school. It's
it's okay.
sometimes, writing about football, I don't even watch the Northwestern game. I'll watch the important ones because it's my job to watch the other ones. So I wouldn't say biggest Northwestern fan, but it does. I have enjoyed several Big Ten championship appearances.
That's right.
I have attended literally dozens of Northwestern football games, and it has brought me more joy than sadness. However, in the grand scheme of Northwestern football, that is a pretty rare experience.
Also joining us, we have Pit Girl. She's
Hello.
coming in, and she's gonna make some comments to all the fun stuff that we have on the Patreon podcast. We expect this. Oh,
It's
sorry.
Wednesday.
It's
Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday? That's weird. You normally say Happy Tuesday. So this part of podcast series, we anticipate 3 parts. We want to go over part 1, like give you a little bit of the quick history of Northwestern football and up to the beginning of the streak. Part 2, we're going to give you like the meat of the streak with the head coach and the AD being fired. And then part 3, we want to go over the end of the streak and Dennis Green's reclamation project up until like the 1982 year of Northwestern football, just to summarize everything for us. So Roger said you had something about a brief, I guess, really quick history of Northwestern football, because as you said, they were not always this bad.
I'm not gonna go super in depth. It's just like I just wanted to make the point before we talk about, like, I would say the defining thing in Northwestern football history, which is that they have the longest losing streak ever in Division 1A FBS. There's some longer ones in the lower levels, as you mentioned, but
Yeah.
like it just feels to me like it wasn't guaranteed when college football started that Northwestern would be bad. And I would say up until the time of the streak, they were an okay team with like some successful moments. They had a Rose Bowl win in the 1940s. They had Ara Parseghian as a coach. They were a number 1 ranked team, I think, as late as the 60s. I looked it up before getting on this podcast. And through the 1973 season, which is John Pont's first year as the head coach of Northwestern football, their all-time record dating back to the 1890s was 335, 335, and 36. They were exactly 500. So, they had some bad times, but like when when you watch college football and we're 100 however many years into it at this point, you just assume this program was like fated to be bad just because they aren't with Northwestern. There are a lot of reasons why that's the case. They're the small school in the big conference. They're the nerd school as opposed to the fun school. But like, it really starts with the streak.
Yeah.
The badness starts with it. Like, there were some bad points beforehand, but like the whole nationwide reputation of being impossible place to win, we expect the worst possible thing. It begins with this. So I'm not like a huge expert on the long scale history. I didn't get there until Pat Fitzgerald was the head coach and things were okay sometimes. But like I'm kind of excited for you to run down exactly what caused this precipitous drop off and drought. I don't remember the
You don't have
I
to
don't
say the
remember the
acronym. It's
acronym.
fine. We can just call it the drought.
So I think this is interesting in the context of being a slightly younger person than
Yeah.
the folks on this podcast, because
Mainly me, because I'm the oldest one here. So
yeah, but Roger, I literally just turned 30. You are older than I am, correct?
I think
I'm a couple years older than that.
slightly.
Some would say a couple of couples a
Okay.
year older than that.
Okay. So, because I don't personally think about Northwestern as a historically bad program.
No.
And I think that is because my like conscious existence and memories of Northwestern football are during the Pat Fitzgerald era. And obviously that ended poorly and we do not endorse
No.
No,
all of that.
definitely not. No.
But Northwestern was feisty and occasionally bitey and made Big Ten championship appearances and all of those things when I was like during my formative years as a college football fan. And so it is like a little bit surprising to me personally that Northwestern holds the FBS record for losing streaks because I would have expected that to be Kansas.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. That means a lot. Uh, that means a lot. No, like I got there. I'm 34. I didn't think about the school at all until 2007, 2008. They were doing fine.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They were like, yeah, they
Yeah.
didn't have,
And
like,
like
to me, they didn't have that reputation either. And
my
then
dad is
every
from
person
Greater
I talked to,
Chicago and I was raised Northwestern affectionate. Like I was not
uh,
a Northwestern fan, but I was generally supportive of the Wildcats, if that makes sense.
we appreciate your vague support.
She likes the purple.
It's a
Which
good purple.
it's a good purple.
It's a great color.
Like as you mentioned, they're perfectly balanced as they come into this era. And basically, I was born in this streak because I am old. So while the streak was going on, I was born in the middle, like towards 81. That's when I was born. So this streak was going on. I was aware of like bad Northwestern, like Rutgers level, like Rutgers and Northwestern were just like hand in hand, just bad when I was growing up in like the 90s. They were just not good. Then when they had the amazing like Rose Bowl run with Darnell Autry in like 96 with Gary Barnett, I think 95, 96.
Hmm.
And they slowly started to improve a little bit better, and they slowly started to get better and shed that label of just like the awful team. But I'm fascinated by really long losing streaks because it's just not a combination of like, man, these guys really suck. Like something must have happened to cause this, because like every now and then you're gonna win a game unless you're just like awful and you know you don't have any scholarships, or like everybody in your athletic department's been indicted, or there's just like a complete like death penalty like SMU, something like that. It fascinates me here, and I want to delve into it for the patrons and you know go into the fun part of it. So as you mentioned, like this streak essentially starts, the cracks of the Northwestern Foundation starts with head coach John Pont. So John Pont, famous like Indiana Hoosier legend, took the Indiana Hoosiers to the Rose Bowl in 1968. They did lose that Rose Bowl. I'm sorry, 1967. 1968, he was the head coach of Indiana, and they went 6-4. That was his last winning season as a head coach. So let me give you a little background on John Pont here. He played college football at Miami University, the Redhawks. Then he went to Canada and played with somebody called the Toronto Balmy Beachers of the Ontario Rugby Football Union, where he won
Ooh.
where he won the Imperial Oil Trophy as league MVP in 1952. That's
Ooh.
just a sentence I
So,
wanted to say out loud.
so is this Canadian football or is this rugby or
Exactly, right?
like? Yeah, I mean, I think they
See,
had
all of the
Canadian
above?
football at the time. Uh,
Kind of all of the above at the time.
If you ever bring this up to a Canadian, by the way, they'll be like, "We invented Canadian football before America invented American football. Like you took it from this is a
No.
belief that
We have a Canadian member,
like
our Canadian member Joey. I sent this link for the Balmy Beachers. I was like, I want a background story on the Toronto Balmy Beachers. I need to know what happened to them. They have a pretty good Wikipedia entry, which yeah, interesting. So Pont then went to head coach of Miami, Ohio, won 2 MAC titles, left after a Tangerine Bowl loss, went to Yale for 2 years, 12-5-1. Then he again only Indiana coach to take the team to the Rose Bowl, 9-2. But he finished his Indiana tenure at 31-51-1.
Yeah.
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 So they
That
thought he
does
would,
sound about right, unfortunately.
in 72, they thought he would return to Indiana, but Northwestern hired him away. Northwestern was like, hey, let's hitch our future to Mr. John Pont. And so he signed a 5-year contract to succeed Alex Agassi at Northwestern University in 1972. He left Indiana, and when he left Indiana, he said, I feel Indiana is on solid ground. The coach that replaced him was Lee Corso. Indiana went 2-9, 1-10, 2-8-1, And then Corso finally got to 5 wins in his 4th year. So basically, not necessarily solid ground that he left Indiana on, I would say.
Okay, but what I'm hearing
I,
is trust the process. Trust
You
the
get
process.
that back
I
in the
love
day,
this.
though, right?
You
Like,
you dropped in this article. By the way, Indiana is the Northwestern used to be the school with the most losses of all time.
yeah,
Now it's Indiana,
that's right.
but we're gonna catch them pretty. We're gonna catch them within the next few
It's going to
years,
be neck
I
and neck, I
think,
think.
because
So,
they're
yeah.
looking pretty good.
At
You
the
you
rate
dropped
things
in an
going, yeah.
you dropped in an article here, and
Yeah.
I love this
Hmm.
the way they started this article, declaring his task of making Indiana University a competitive football power was complete. John Pont took over Saturday as the head coach. Like you don't need to do that anymore. You could just leave. You don't have to be like I have taken over and conquered into Indiana, and they no longer need me.
You
I
can leave. Hit the bricks.
have hit the
Leave.
brick.
Hit the
I
bricks.
have conquered Bloomington. I am on to Evanston. So just yes, these articles are ridiculous. Indiana's next winning season was in 1979 when the Hoosiers won the Holiday Bowl with Lee Corso. Pont's time at Northwestern not that great. He started 5-6, 4-4 in the Big Ten, tied for 4th. Then dropped to 2-8, 2-6 in the Big Ten, 3-8, 2-6 in the Big Ten, 1-10, 1-7 in the Big Ten, and then 1-10 again, 1-8 in the Big Ten. So before his last game with Northwestern, he basically says, I'm quitting as coach, but I'm gonna stay as the athletic director. So he's like, I'm
Which
out.
is a
I just you gotta be kidding me here. I'm trying to figure out. I lost the former name of the athletic director that he took his job for. I had it somewhere. I lost it though.
I
Uh,
do like the
this is
energy of I'm firing myself, but also I'm keeping myself as my boss. Because ultimately that's what that is.